Hey everyone, hope you're all well. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Been a little bit of time between videos. I don't like posting them just for the sake of it, but just gone through a process of having a new barrel chambered up by my gunsmith, and I've had it chambered in the 300 WSM. So I thought I might just do a little bit of a rundown on why I have elected to have a 300 WSM chambered, and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of the 300 WSM, probably more specifically here in Australia rather than other parts of the world like the US or UK. So I think if I rewind probably 3 years ago, I think it might have been one of the very first videos I filmed, may have even been the first video I filmed. It was of me shooting a 300 WSM at my local range at 600 meters. And it wasn't sort of with the intention of, I guess, more widely publishing that video. It was more to see how the rifle tracked under recoil and how my body positioning was, and whether I was snatching the trigger, and all of those sorts of things, just to see how manageable the 300 WSM was in terms of shooting it with F-class string fire, returning to battery, etc. Because it was and is the heaviest caliber that I own and have effectively shot. Sort of went away from the 300 WSM over the past year or so, probably closer to a year and a half really, primarily due to energy limit restrictions in Australia. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why the 300 WSM is not more popular here. It's because a lot of rifle ranges in Australia have energy limit restrictions imposed on them. And for the type of velocities that people would typically like to run the 300 WSM in F-class, it exceeds the energy limits at most ranges in Australia. Now, it's not all ranges, but in terms of the large matches held, the Kings Series, the state championships, and more recently the Australian Point Series, which is Australia's version of the V2 series held in the US. Most of the ranges involved don't cater for a 300 WSM being shot. There are a couple of big ranges, however, that do, and that's why I've leaned towards getting another WSM chambered up. So in September, I'll be attending the 3rd regional APS match, which is being held at Lower Light Rifle Range in South Australia. That's one rifle range where I can shoot a 300 WSM and not worry so much about energy limits. The other range is Canberra, Majura Rifle Range in Canberra. And I'll be shooting in the New South Wales F Open State team there, and as well as the Kings match, which precedes the state teams match. So I will certainly take the WSM there as well. Outside of that, it really won't get a whole lot of use. It's primarily for those ranges and those types of matches. And really, my thoughts behind the WSM, having shot it previously, I do find at distance it holds excellent vertical in choppy conditions. And in my opinion, it's my opinion only, other people's opinions of course may differ, I have found it will hold tighter vertical than most of the 7mm calibers out there. Certainly the F-class ones that I've come up against like your 284s and your 7mm short action ultra magnums, or your 7mm Storms. So I thought I'd run through very quickly the components that I have selected for the WSM. I'll start on the left of screen here. This very bland white primer packet. If anyone knows what this is, well done. And if you don't, I'll tell you. I am running RWS large rifle primers. In the first iteration of the WSM that I was running, I had excellent success with Celia and Bellow large rifle primers behind Reloader 23 powder. Now with Reloader 23 powder and Berger 215 grain projectiles, I was able to run the 300 WSM at around 2,920 feet per second, which with that powder produced great load data and excellent accuracy. Reloader 23 powder, however, is not currently available in Australia, hasn't been available for some time. There are some lucky people out there that have managed to squirrel supplies of Reloader 23 aside. I'm not one of those people. So alternative powders available here in Australia are really come down to ADI, which is Hodgen for the folks in the US and UK, although I don't think the UK shooters, I don't think they may have had access to Hodgen for a little while as well. I think it's very difficult to get over there. But there are a couple of ADI powders which will work in the 300 WSM. The first one is 2209, which is not on screen. It has a green label here in Australia. I think ADI 2209 probably works very, very well for projectiles up to around 200 grains. Beyond the 200 grain projectiles though, I do believe the advantage swings across to 2213 shortcut, pictured on screen with the purple labeling. Now that is H4831 shortcut if it's rebranded to Hodgson, and ADI 2209 is H4350. So that's the equivalent branded US powders for anyone in the States watching this. Now again, my first iteration, I was running Berger 215 grain projectiles exclusively. I have also made a slight change there for this new chambering. I've gone with the Berger 220 grain long range hybrid, which from the factory, I'll try and get that focused, comes pointed. Lovely, lovely tiny tips on this projectile, and as per the norm with any Berger bullet, looks very, very impressive. So RWS large rifle primer, Berger 220 grain long range hybrid target bullet. Moving on to the brass. Now this is not the brass that I intend to run for my final load. At the moment I haven't put any rounds down this new barrel, which we'll get onto in a little bit. This is Norma brass. It's a batch of Norma brass from when I was originally shooting the WSM a couple of years ago. This brass was brass that I'd put away for sort of large matches, so it hasn't had a lot of use. Primer pockets are good, they're nice and tight, and just to sort of get this barrel up to speed, I'm going to run Norma brass. I have, at the time of this video, I've got a supply of ADG 300 WSM brass on the way, which should arrive next week. And I guess also for those watching this video, if you have any interest in the 300 WSM Lapua, are coming to market with 300 WSM brass very shortly. I have seen photos on Facebook of 300 WSM brass rolling off the production line, being boxed up, and I imagine it'll probably hit the United States first, as most things typically do. But yes, Lapua 300 WSM brass should provide an excellent alternative to both Norma and ADG. But it's good to see several decent brass offerings out there for it. Yeah, so I haven't run any rounds through the barrel yet. That's going to occur tomorrow. I'll be heading to an indoor range which goes out to 50 meters. That will simply be to probably run a dozen rounds through the barrel, give it a clean, and effectively zero the gun at 50 meters. As I said, it's an indoor range, so wind is not a factor, and it's typically what I do with any new barrel for any caliber that I have chambered. I'll attend that range, step it out to 50, obtain my zero with my intended match rifle bullet, and I'll take a velocity reading, and I can quite comfortably step it back to distance from there. Hasn't let me down yet. So again, going back to why again I like the 300 WSM, I do feel that it offers a vertical dispersion advantage in the wind. It doesn't necessarily offer a windage advantage, but I do believe it offers a vertical dispersion advantage. The 300 WSM is, from previous experience, quite an easy caliber to tune, which is another advantage. And if you take a closer look at the case itself, it's fairly short, it's fairly fat, it's got a nice 35-degree shoulder angle on it, like your 284 Winchester, which is very, very popular with the F-class crowd. The neck on it, it's not too bad either. It's not the longest neck out there, but it's also far from being the shortest. Now, I have no idea, I'm not going to be able to run the same velocity with these Berger 220s and 2213 shortcut powder as what I previously ran it. I don't believe I'm going to be able to exceed 2,900 feet per second with any degree of comfort, and from the limited information out there on the Berger 220 and 300 WSM, I do believe my ultimate velocity to provide ideal accuracy will fall somewhere underneath 2,850 feet per second. And I'm okay with that. I'm not looking to hot rod this cartridge. In fact, I don't look to hot rod any of my cartridges. Probably the one that's in reality the most zippy is my 6mm GT, which travels comfortably above 3,000 feet per second with the Berger 109 hybrid. That's probably the hottest load I run. My 284 Shahane, I only run that at 2,800 feet per second. I do know that there's a lot of articles out there, a lot of data, and people say that you can push the 284 Shahane up over 2,900 feet per second. I have not taken mine that high, nor have I tried to, nor will I ever try to. That's not why I shoot it. And the other cartridge I'm playing around with at the moment, and I might do another video on that one, it's an improved 7mm Storm. I have gone away from the PRC recently, the necked up 6.5 PRC. I was not able to get that to shoot after churning through a barrel and trying a couple more things with a new barrel. I was not able to get any degree of consistency out of that cartridge that has made me want to stick with it. The WSM though, however, different story. I've shot it before, I know it works, and I'm fairly confident I can get this new one up and running without too much hassle. Okay, so enough of that. We'll just move over very quickly to what that cartridge is going to be used in. It's been a little while since I've used it, but my Cirrus XR F-open stock has been chambered to run the 300 WSM. Now I have done like a gear walkthrough on this rifle before. Two things have changed. First one is the trigger, and second one is obviously the barrel. So we'll start with the barrel. The barrel for this 300 WSM is a 9-twist Brux barrel, 4 groove, finished at 32 inches, and you can see on the end I'm running a Dan Bramley barrel tuner. Won't bore you too much with the rest of it. Suffice to say, they're all tier 1 components. On top we've got the March High Master 10-60 rifle scope. We've got the Borden BRM XD nitride at action. We've got the March rings. Moving down to the trigger, however, I did do a video on a trigger a little while ago. This is a SIDI, that's S-I-D-H-E, SIDI Evo bench rest trigger, made in Italy. And I've swapped out my 3 rifles to SIDI triggers and absolutely loving them so far. And obviously we've got the rad system at the back, which definitely makes a difference when shooting a 300 WSM. As you can appreciate, 300 WSM does kick noticeably more than most of your popular 7mm out there. You certainly notice the extra recoil over a 284 Winchester as well as a 7mm Saum. I actually don't find a huge amount of difference in recoil at all between my 284 Shaheen and my improved 7mm Saum. Step up to the 300 though, it does make a bigger bang. However, I did shoot my old WSM barrel recently, just to remind myself how the recoil felt and whether it was something I was going to be happy running into the future. And yeah, with these rifle stocks, with my Cirrus and the AS stocks out of Italy, it just tracked dead on. Yes, you do feel the recoil more. Do I find it uncomfortable? No, I don't. I do find it entirely manageable. In no way, shape or form do I find it unpleasant. Just don't expect to be able to machine gun your way through a rifle stage. It is a caliber that demands constant attention and making sure that your body positioning, particularly your shoulder positioning, remains consistent. So I guess my main takeaway is you cannot afford to be lazy with shooting the 300 WSM. My 6mm GT, I can very much afford to be lazy with that because in a rifle weighing 9.5 kilos, the recoil's not a factor whatsoever. However, when you're shoving 65 grains of powder into a 300 WSM, it's a different story. Anyway, I'll probably leave it there, I think. We'll sort this thing out tomorrow. We'll get it zeroed. And my local club, we're actually shooting at 800 meters. So once I get the zero at the indoor range, I'll be taking this effectively straight out to 800 meters for load development testing. I've got a number of rounds loaded up with different powder charges. My Garmin chronograph's ready to go, and we'll see what sort of load data we can achieve, and hopefully see how the accuracy looks as well. All the rounds I've loaded up jumped 20 thousandths off the lands, and we're sort of starting at 63.5 grains, which I suspect will be quite a mild load, working up to as high as 65.5. Again, not looking to achieve maximum velocity or pressure. I don't want to stress the cases any more than I have to. And as I said, I do believe my ideal accuracy node, if you do believe in that, I do believe the speed that this is going to probably shoot really well at will come under 2,850 feet per second. I will just caveat by closing out this video. There was a bench rest, 1,000-yard bench rest world record achieved in the United States a couple of years ago with the 300 WSM, and the shooter who obtained that record shot a 2.6-inch group, basically held the X-ring for 10 shots at 1,000 yards. He was running the Berger 220 grain long range hybrid behind reload of 23 powder, but his velocity was between 28 and 2,820 feet per second. So by no means hot rodding it, but certainly that speed. It shot incredibly well there, and I have a sneaky suspicion this will hopefully do the same. Anyway, we'll find out soon enough. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon.